So I work for Zero Waste Scotland, which, if you haven't heard of us, we are funded by the Scottish Government and European Regional Development Fund to basically look at helping Scotland to use products and resources more responsibly and to transition towards a circular economy. So we do lots of work. But tonight, obviously, the theme is plastic, so I'm going to focus just on that area. But I'll be here till the bitter end if anybody wants to ask about any of the rest of it. But I know tonight it's about plastics, but actually I want to change the language slightly to single use. I think this was a picture, again, a bit grainy, but some of you may remember the bin strikes in Glasgow last year. And we were inundated with pictures like this. And when you look at that, pretty much everything in that picture is single use. And most of it is plastic, but there's also cardboard, paper, there's probably compostable cups, but it's all litter. And it's probably all going to end up in landfill, whatever it's made of. So I really want to change the wording from plastic to single use, because that is the problem. And all this single-use stuff, if we were using reusables, if we had our reusable coffee cups, our refillable water bottles, all of that, that bin strike wouldn't have had half as much of an impact because none of that stuff would be there. So it would have been a very different story. So I know plastic doesn't seem to be disappearing anytime fast, but there is quite a lot that has been going on, and there's a bit of a timeline here of some of the things happening in Scotland. And I'm going to delve into some of these just a little bit deeper. So I think one of the biggest impacts we've seen was the carrier bag charge, trying to get rid of these damn things. And this was a real simple one, and I think so effective. For the sake of adding 5 or later on 10p to the price of a carrier bag, we have managed to reduce carrier bag use in Scotland by about 80%. I mean, that is a really good story. I know there was mention about carrier bags made of different things that could be compostable at home, but that's still single use. If we can get rid of carrier bags, in total get us reusing bags, that's going to be much better. So this had a big impact in reducing the amount of plastic, but also the carbon impact, and it raised money for charity as well. So it's an all-round good story. Trial period. Apologies to those, for many of us in the room, me included, because I'm of a certain age. This is no longer relevant, but I think it's a very important thing to highlight, and you may have daughters, friends who this is relevant to. But the average menstruating person in their lifetime will go through over 11,000 menstrual products. And most of these are full of plastic, which a lot of people don't think about. And over a third of them are flushed down toilets. So they are ending up in the oceans or blocking drains. And those of you who've done all those amazing litter picks have probably seen these firsthand. And it's not pleasant when you think about these things may still be on this planet in 500 years' time because that plastic isn't going anywhere. So we did run a big campaign a few years ago, really just raising awareness of this because it's something a lot of people haven't thought about. And things do seem to be changing, but it's another big area that isn't talked about because I heard a great podcast that said asking for menstrual products is a bit like asking for Class A drugs. It's kind of done in whispered tones. We don't talk about periods, but maybe we should. We've done a lot of work with hospitality because that's where there's an awful lot of single use. I mean, you can see out there, we have got single-use plates, not plastic, but they are still single use. We've got single-use water bottles out there. We've got orange juice in jugs. Why haven't we got water in jugs? Very bizarre. So we are trying to do pilots in various areas to try out different approaches. And this was a pilot we did in Portobello. It was very, very small scale, but it was looking at all sorts of single-use items, the majority of which are plastic. So there are things like sauce sachets, cups, straws. This was before the straw ban, plastic stirrers, but even things like napkins. Okay, it's paper, but still single-use and still probably ending up in landfill. And it was really simple steps. So things like just a sauce sachet, swapping it, okay, that's plastic, but that's refillable and that will last for years. And it's getting rid of all those little sachets and could actually save the business money as well. So trying to just do little steps like this. Loads of different things were done, even like the napkins. If you go into many fast food places, they'll hand you a wodge of napkins. And you think, I only need one. So just doing things like putting the napkins behind a counter so that people have to come up and ask for them, and then just giving them one can make a huge difference. So we were trying to show that just these small steps can have a big impact. And what we've done with all of these things is put our learnings on our website so that people can learn from them. So we don't just put the good stuff on there, we look at what went wrong as well and where people can learn from that. But if you're working with any hospitality businesses, if you're organizing catering for events like this, then maybe think about some of these things and help share these ideas. We wanted to take the coffee cups bit a bit further because the Portobello pilot was very small. So we wanted to do a pilot on a bigger scale, and we did a Sterling citywide reusable cup project, where the idea was you could go into any participating cafe, pay £1 for a reusable and returnable cup, drink your coffee as you walk down the street, and return it to any other participating cafe and get your £1 back. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for people who don't want to take their own coffee cup with them, to have that sort of flexibility. We had 18 cafes and 2 shops took part in that. We had some events as well, so some local primary schools said, oh, could we borrow some of the cups for our fete? And we also had 2 sort of event venues, the Toll Booth and Albert Halls, used reusable cups as well. The results, again, very mixed. Some stuff worked really well, some not so well, and the report will be coming out very, very shortly. So you can have a look at that on our website very soon. But one of the learnings from a lot of the coffee cup pilots is that actually a lot of the things we've tried don't really work very well. You may well have been into cafes that offer a discount for taking your own reusable coffee cup. How many people have taken their own cup and got that discount? Not that many. And you guys are converts to this whole anti-plastic thing. So you can see actually when we've spoken to cafes, they've said probably about 1% of customers bring their own cup in. So discounts don't work. But an advisory group has been set up and looked at it, and what they're going to do is introduce a charge for coffee cups, for single-use coffee cups. So on the same principle of the carrier bag charge, you will pay extra for a coffee cup. Now, I know there's been a lot of backlash about, cost of living crisis, and we can't be charging extra. So what they're saying actually is that the way it's implemented might be that if a cafe was going to charge £2 for a coffee, then with the new scheme, they would say it's £1.80 for your coffee and it's 20p for the cup. So the overall price isn't any higher, but you're just separating out that charge. And psychologically, it's been shown that just when people see there is an extra charge for a single-use cup, they're more likely to think, oh, I don't want to pay an extra 20p, I'll bring my own cup next time. So that is being introduced. So hopefully that will have a similar impact to that carrier bag charge. Time will tell. And when these things happen, it's not just the Scottish government saying, right, this is going to happen. They do consult with a lot of people. These are just some of the people on the advisory group for these discussions. So yeah, they do take it seriously, and they look at all the implication inequalities, cost of living, all these different things. So these changes are seriously considered. Some of you may be aware of this, but in 2021 there was in 2022, there was the Single-Use Plastics Directive, banned a load of single-use items. So again, there is a big shift. We don't always see this because often they're just changing one material for a different single-use material, but there were quite a few things banned in that, including straws and single-use plastic plates, things like that. And there was a big communications campaign that we were in charge of around that, so trying to help hospitality businesses make that change. You may still find places that haven't done it yet, because obviously sometimes the enforcement and the checking of these things is not always 100%, takes a bit of time, but these things have been banned. And another one you may have heard a lot about, there's been a fantastic influencer in Scotland, it's Less Waste Laura, who ran a huge campaign around single-use vapes. And it's great news that that has finally sort of been taken up, that they are going to ban single-use vapes. If you haven't come across them, you know, these things are horrendous, and they reckon around 10% of them are littered. And the emissions that they create are absolutely horrendous. I've never used one of these, and I've never even looked at them properly, but when you look at what goes into them, it is quite horrendous. I mean, there's a heating element, a power source like a battery, there's a mouthpiece, there's a reservoir for the liquid, and all these things are just single use and just being thrown away. They are absolutely horrendous. And they're a fire hazard. There have been examples of them setting fire to things as well. So, you know, this is going to come into effect next year, and again will be a big, big step in reducing single-use plastics. So some of the ambitions, some of the things coming up, I always have to check my notes here because I was getting confused between the route map and the circular economy bill. So we have the route map, which contains non-legislative proposals on how we produce, consume, and manage Scotland's resources, from reducing food waste and improving recycling to embedding circular construction practices and promoting responsible production, consumption, and reuse. So that's one of the things coming up. We also have the Circular Economy Bill, which is more about the legislative framework required to support our transition to zero waste and circular economy. So that's going to be looking more at reuse and recycling rates and things like that, and includes this charge on single-use coffee cups. So there's a lot of work going on around those. There's consultations on both that have just closed, but there's more work going to be going on looking at those. And I was with Circular Communities Scotland earlier, who are feeding into the next phase of these and really trying to make sure that they are as impactful for Scotland as possible. All of this kind of does require a lot of communications, so the legislation's fine, but if we're not telling people about it, it's not going to happen. The first campaign, our Plastic Lasts campaign, was a bit controversial. This really got the discussion going. Lots of negative comments on the social media because we were saying, actually, yeah, plastic is great in the right circumstances. So, I mean, that picture, Tupperware, I don't know how many of you have got Tupperware in your kitchens that you've had for like 3 decades. You know, it lasts, it's lightweight, it's durable, it has probably displaced numerous single-use things. It can be good. Plastic in medical circumstances, in cars, can be good. There's even a plastic bridge in the borders. You know, it's lightweight, it's durable. There's certain good things about it, but it should not be single-use. That is where it's really bad. So it was really trying to open that discussion, which was quite interesting. We are shortly launching this Reuse Knowledge Hub on our website, where we'll have these reports from our pilots. So there'll be lots of interesting stuff on there, including examples from around the world of other projects to reduce single-use plastics. And we ran a webinar last November, which is also on our website, and there's a link to it on the slides, which I think are going to be distributed. But with that, we try to highlight 5 different examples of coffee cup projects. We were focusing in on that, but you know, obviously there's a lot more around plastics. But looking at schemes from like just a single cafe to our Stirling pilot, to Keep Scotland Beautiful, ran a coffee cup project around the North Coast 500 route, which was very ambitious, trying to do a reusable and returnable cup scheme around there. We also had a university, I think it was Glasgow, Strathclyde was it, I think, university. And we had me talking about, I ran a reusable cup scheme at the UCI Cycling World Championships last summer at Glentress, which again had a lot of learning, lots of good, a lot of bad. So that's all available on that webinar, plus a little bit about the sort of policy and regulation side of things. So coming up, we have all these things. Thank you to the gentleman who mentioned extended producer responsibility earlier, because that is something that's being looked at as well. And that is very much about getting manufacturers to look at how they manufacture things. So could they manufacture them in a way that the items don't become waste, that they can be repaired, that they can be reused? If they, maybe instead of selling them, they rent them or lease them, and then they can be taken back and reused. All those sorts of things. Or at the very least, make sure they can be recycled easily. So not having the two different types of material on the one product. Deposit return scheme, I'm not going there. That's a political potato, and I am not commenting. But the other things I've already mentioned. So there is a lot going on. I know it doesn't look like it sometimes, especially when you guys are doing these beach cleans and seeing all this plastic, but things are moving in the right direction, hopefully. It is slow, it is tricky, and I know a lady was saying about there are alternatives out there, compostable stuff, and I think Tom is going to be talking about some of the alternatives later, but I would just say, the alternatives all have knock-on effects, and this is a compostable cup. It's probably destined for landfill, because most of us don't have anywhere to put that other than in the general waste. So, all these alternatives need to be looked at carefully, and I hope I haven't said the wrong thing with Tom there. But that's, absolutely. That is me, so thank you very much. Any questions? Yes?
Yeah, Wesley Patchen from Annan again. I was amazed that the tobacco industry was allowed to invent vape, if that's the right phrase to use. The phrase strangled at birth occurs to me as something that should have happened. And in Queensland, Australia, I'm told, the only way you can get one, you register as a quitting addict, and you can only get them from pharmacies.
Wow.
Now, if they can do it, what are we waiting for? Okay, these people can play cricket and tennis. They are not uncouth colonials. If they got more brains than we have and are using them better, then why not? And would you believe that I was told on a British Railways train that I could not use my own cup in case it was contaminated, and the coffee that they put in it would make me ill because my cup might not be clean enough.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think before COVID hit, we were making some good strides towards reuse, and then suddenly during lockdown, everything became single-use, didn't it? And everybody had some excuse for not accepting single-use items. But yeah, it went a bit mad. So we kind of took a big step back during COVID, but hopefully it's gaining traction again. Anything else?
I have seen some good sort of examples of reuse more recently. I mean, like in stores now, you can get refillable deodorant and refillable shower gels. Yeah. And also, I saw, we watched a bit of Dragon's Den, but they had a product. I think it was a few years ago, but it was called the Sauce Stream. But basically, you could attach it to a glass sauce bottle.
Yeah.
And it acted like a squeezy bottle. So it meant you weren't using the single
Excellent. Yeah, I don't remember that one. But yeah, a lot of the refill type things, and there's some good examples. I don't know if there's any good refill shops in Dumfries. Yeah, excellent. So you can go and take your own packaging in and refill like Tupperware containers or old ice cream tubs and things with a lot of dried goods. Some of them even have milk now you can refill. A lot of them have cleaning products and things like that. So they're really good. But we were saying earlier, it's quite hard. People have to make a bit of an effort to go to these refill shops. You can go to Sainsbury's and get most of your stuff, and then you've got to make an extra trip to this other shop. And there's also a kind of misconception that it's a lot more expensive, which it is for some things, but not for everything. And if you only need a small amount of something, rather than going to Sainsbury's and getting a pack for 4, you can get exactly how much you need. So it's kind of trying to change our mindsets to do these things. And like you say, the refillable deodorant, or I make my own deodorant, or you can get things like shampoo bars instead of shampoo bottles, which look really expensive, but they last for ages, and completely do away with the plastic. So there are so many alternatives, but yeah, it's making them affordable, accessible, easy to use. Yeah.
I get my milk delivered every 2 days. Milk bottles at the end of the drive, they're reused, so that there's no plastic milk bottles coming to our house. Is glass good?
Yeah, I don't know the full environmental impact. I don't know if anybody else does, but certainly, yeah, there's pros and cons. I mean, obviously glass is heavier than the plastic, so the transportation is going to use more carbon. But as you say, if it can be reused, then that's great, and they can be recycled indefinitely. So better from that point of view. Oh.
One of the farmers that has a home delivery business with glass bottles put out last week that they looked at it and it only works if people return their glass bottles. As soon as people don't return the glass bottles, it's not as good as the plastic ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Kate.
Another issue is to reduce the use of water bottles, plastic water bottles. There is an app, Refill My Bottle, and so when you're out cycling, and you need an awful lot more than the 2 bottles you've got, you can log on. But the downside is in Dumfries and Galloway, the Wi-Fi can be very intermittent. If you rely too heavily on technology, you can come very unstuck.
Very true. But I think cafes are getting quite good now. A lot of them, as soon as they see a cyclist there and they see you with your bottle, they go, do you want me to refill that? So yeah, it's always worth asking.
One more question.
Just a point of information. Glass is infinitely recyclable without any loss of quality, having worked in that industry.
Yep, excellent.
Okay, James.
It's a tendency to jump into making a statement that when you picked up the cup, you said it's going to end up in landfill. And
Absolutely, it's not quite.
I need to challenge that. Dumfries and Galloway hasn't landfilled for a lot of years. The waste that we process goes.
That's true. I forget where I am. Yeah. In the rest of the country, it will probably end up in landfill.
In the rest of the country, the majority of Scottish local authorities aren't landfilling the residual waste, and indeed with the landfill ban coming at the end of 2025, none of them will be landfilling the residual waste. So most of them.
It's not ideal that we're only recover. So we won't recover.
No, it's being treated in Scotland and generating energy from it.
It's being recovered, so you can recycle, which is, reusing it as the same material again, so breaking the glass and turning it back into glass. It's not for you, this is for something. The recovery is when you can use it for some other purpose. And that would be, in the case of energy from waste, that's what most of the waste in the place of power is not recycled. It goes into the energy from waste stream. So it's not as good as recycling. It's definitely not as good as reuse, which is what Tom does with the milk bottles. But it's better than, as we said.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But reuse is still best.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or reduce is even better than
Absolutely.
Yes.
Don't create waste.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think the point is it's got to find its way into the recycling chain to be recycled.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's got to be easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Miriam, thank you so much for that. That's our time up. Miriam,